Okay, so there's been a massive development in a story that affects the lives of over 1 million people right here in the US. A federal judge just hit the brakes hard on a plan to end legal protections for immigrants from Haiti and Venezuela. We're going to get into what this all means because this is so much more than a legal headline. It's a story about stability, about deep uncertainty, and what happens when the law gets very, very personal. And just to give you a sense of the scale here, we're talking about 1.1 million people. That breaks down to about 600,000 Venezuelans and 500,000 Haitians who have been legally living, working, and building lives in communities all across the country. And, these aren't just statistics on a page. We're talking about neighbors, coworkers, and family members. So this really gets to the absolute heart of the matter, right? What happens when the legal ground underneath more than 1 million people just starts to crumble? What does that kind of uncertainty even feel like day to day? Well, we're about to find out. So first up, let's talk about the ruling itself. A federal court has just stepped right into the middle of this huge immigration debate and made a very decisive move. Okay, so here's the bottom line. A federal judge in San Francisco has blocked the administration from ending these protections. For all those Venezuelans and Haitians, this is huge. It means they can keep living and working here legally. But you see that last part on the screen? For now, that's the catch. This is a temporary sigh of relief, not the end of the story. Now, to really understand what's at stake here, we have to get into the program at the center of this whole fight. So, what exactly is TPS, or Temporary Protected Status? So basically, here's how it works. The Secretary of Homeland Security can give people this status if things in their home country get incredibly dangerous. We're talking about things like a massive natural disaster, a brutal civil war, or some other kind of extraordinary event that makes it just unsafe to go back. It's designed to be a temporary safe harbor, not a path to citizenship. And when you look at why these designations were made for Haiti and Venezuela, the reasons are just devastating. For Haiti, it all started with that catastrophic earthquake back in 2010, but the danger hasn't stopped. We're talking about ongoing hunger and just rampant gang violence. And for Venezuela, it's this deep, spiraling crisis of political chaos, economic collapse, and widespread hunger that's forced millions of people to flee. All right, so this has all boiled over into a major legal showdown in court, with two completely different takes on what this TPS program is supposed to be. On one side, you have the administration. They've argued that this program is being misused, that it's turned into what they call a de facto amnesty program. And they believe that things in both Haiti and Venezuela have gotten better enough for people to go home. But on the other side, the judge completely disagreed. He called the decision to end protections arbitrary and capricious, basically saying the administration just ignored clear evidence that it's still incredibly dangerous to send people back. And this quote from a DHS spokesperson, well, it really gets to the core of the administration's argument. They see a program that was meant to be temporary being stretched way beyond its original intent, almost like a backdoor to permanent residency. But then, in sharp contrast, you have Judge Chen's response. And wow, that is some strong legal language. When a court calls a government action arbitrary and capricious, it means the decision wasn't based on facts or reason. He was essentially saying the Secretary of Homeland Security went beyond what the law allows. Now, the legal journey to get here has been a total roller coaster. Back in March, Judge Chen put a temporary pause on the plan. But then in May, the Supreme Court actually reversed that pause, and that allowed the plan to move forward while the case was still being argued. And now, that brings us to today, where Judge Chen has issued this much stronger, final ruling blocking the plan all over again. You can just imagine the chaos this back and forth has caused for people on the ground. Okay, so we've talked about the legal arguments, but none of this is happening in a vacuum. Let's move beyond the courtroom and look at the real-world human impact of all this uncertainty. Because during that window, when the Supreme Court lifted the protections, the consequences were immediate, and they were devastating. People were actually deported. Families were literally split apart. The threat became a heartbreaking reality for so many. I mean, just listen to the story from the court documents. There was a restaurant hostess in Indiana living here under TPS. She went to her required annual immigration check-in, just like she was supposed to. In July, she was deported back to Venezuela. And now, her husband is left behind, trying to work his job as a construction supervisor while taking care of their baby daughter all by himself. Or how about this story? It just paints such a clear picture. A FedEx employee shows up for his immigration check-in, And he's still in his work uniform. He probably came straight from his shift. And instead of just a routine appointment, he was immediately detained. For 2 weeks, he was held, sleeping on a floor, completely terrified that he was about to be sent away from his family. And in just those 2 weeks, his family's life was thrown into total crisis. His wife's income just wasn't enough to keep the household running on her own. It's incredible how quickly a family's stability can just be shattered. And really, this quote from a TPS holder who was detained, it just captures the feeling of so many people. It's the sense of shock that after years of working hard, contributing, playing by the rules, their families and their entire lives are just being ripped apart. So, after all this legal whiplash, after all this human cost, where do things stand now? What does this new ruling actually mean for the future? Look, there's no question this ruling is a massive victory for TPS holders and their families. But, and this is a big but, it's not the final word. The government is almost certainly going to appeal this decision, which means the legal fight and all the uncertainty that comes with it is going to continue. And at the end of the day, all of this legal back and forth leaves us with one huge fundamental question. This program was created 35 years ago. People have built entire lives here over decades. So with another appeal on the horizon, what does it truly mean for a protection to be temporary? That's the real issue here, and it's still completely unresolved.